Welcome, friends, to a dedicated space for profound introspection and spiritual exploration. Today's conversation transcends mere self-help. We are delving into the deep, often misunderstood science of connecting with our higher spiritual self, a process that requires both intellectual clarity and moral commitment. This is about learning the art of listening, not with the physical ear, but with the inner self, the soul, which is perpetually attuned to the wisdom of the universe. In the grand scheme of creation, as taught by the esteemed work of Allan Kardec and the spirits who guided him, we are not isolated beings. We are souls on an evolutionary journey, constantly surrounded by a host of unseen intelligences, some benevolent and some less advanced, all acting within the universal order. These intelligent beings, our spirit guides, mentors, and loved ones who have transitioned, are eager to offer counsel, direction, and protection. Yet the question remains, why do their messages often seem elusive or vague? The answer, as we will explore, lies less with their willingness to communicate and more with our own frequency, our level of moral refinement, our preoccupation with material concerns, and our lack of focused, deliberate effort. We stand today on the threshold of a greater understanding, ready to employ practical yet deeply meaningful methods to clear the static, sharpen our reception, and fully engage in the ongoing dialogue that exists between the physical world and the spiritual plane. This journey requires patience, faith, and most importantly, a commitment to the moral principles that elevate the soul, for true communication is always a matter of shared vibration and mutual respect. The universal gateway of fire. The simple, deliberate act of lighting a white candle is a gesture rich in symbolic and energetic meaning, establishing an immediate and recognizable channel of communication across the subtle planes. Within the study of Spiritism, which Kardec organized, we learn that the physical elements can serve as powerful auxiliary supports for concentrating mental and fluidic energies. Fire in particular represents purification, illumination, and the burning of intention, making it an excellent conductor for focusing the mind. The white wax, being a neutral element, symbolizes purity and can be directed toward any benevolent spiritual source, acknowledging the universal nature of divine assistance, which is never limited to a single name or form. The flame acts like a concentrated beacon, cutting through the mental noise and material distractions that incessantly clutter our daily consciousness. Think of it as consciously creating a dedicated line for your spiritual telephony. Without this focus, your inner self is attempting to receive a complex, nuanced message over a chaotic, multi-channel radio frequency. When we light the candle, we are declaring our attention and sincerity to the spiritual world, indicating that we are ready to pause the world's clamor and listen to the silent whisper of wisdom. This is the first step in active, intentional spiritual practice, leveraging a simple, accessible object to bridge the gap between matter and spirit, making the invisible world more palpable and responsive to our focused, earnest call for guidance. The physical warmth and light anchor the mind, making the spiritual connection less abstract and more grounded in the here and now. Personalizing your spiritual antenna. To truly make this practice a powerful tool for connection, we must move beyond the general and make the object a deeply personal focal point, transforming the simple candle into a spiritual antenna attuned to our individual identity and spiritual journey. Engraving or writing your full name onto the candle is a conscious material act of self-identification, signaling to your dedicated spiritual team, your guardian angel, your familiar spirits, and your mentors, precisely who is initiating this call. As the spirits operate on a level of fluidic connection and intention, this physical marker reinforces your mental focus, giving your desire a tangible form. Once personalized, the candle must be imbued with a clear, specific intention that goes beyond a mere wish for help. You are directing the energy of the flame to connect you with your superior spirituality, a term that encompasses the highest, purest forms of guidance that are in harmony with the divine law. This is the critical moment where you apply the principle of moral elevation as taught by Kardec. You are calling upon spirits who are morally advanced, possessing great wisdom and benevolence, aligning your will with theirs. Without this clear moral intention, you risk attracting less serious or less evolved spirits, whose advice might be misleading or frivolous. Therefore, the intention must be focused on May this light serve as a perfect frequency match for my guides, masters, and the true spirits of light who assist me, seeking guidance only for my moral improvement and the good of my fellow beings. This focused, high-vibration intent guarantees that the communication channel is established with those entities who have the moral authority and wisdom to truly guide your evolution, seeking clarity, not just contact. The mere act of establishing contact is insufficient. The ultimate goal is the clear understanding and application of the counsel received, a principle paramount in the moral discipline of Spiritism. After lighting the candle and setting your high-minded intention, the next phase is a humble and specific request. Ask your guides not just to communicate, but to communicate in a way that you, in your current state of human limitations and preoccupation, can fully grasp and internalize. The spirit world, as revealed through Kardec's methodical research, is always in constant communion with us. The flow of intuitive thoughts, inspiration, and subtle influences is unending. The problem is almost invariably our own inaccessibility, a result of our focus being too heavily weighted toward the ephemeral troubles of the material world. We are spiritually deafened by the noise of ego, doubt, and daily stress. Therefore, your sincere plea should be, "Dear guides, help me to recognize your messages. Show me the means in my ordinary life, in my daily events, my conversations, my readings, by which you are speaking to me." This is a request for a shift in perspective, moving from a passive expectation of a supernatural event to an active, vigilant search for the sacred within the mundane. The guides, being intelligent and benevolent, will choose the path of least resistance to reach your mind, but you must be ready to meet them halfway by consciously lowering the barrier of your self-absorption and intellectual skepticism. True spiritual communication is a collaborative effort, requiring the spirit's wisdom and the incarnate soul's keen attention. The critical need for receptivity. Our ability to hear the profound wisdom of our spiritual benefactors is directly proportional to our state of moral and intellectual receptivity. The teachings of Kardec emphasize that spirits are drawn to us based on affinity. Like attracts like. If our thoughts are constantly immersed in base desires, petty jealousies, or material worries, we lower our spiritual vibration, effectively placing a dense, fluidic shield between ourselves and the high vibration counsels of our enlightened guides. To overcome this, we must actively cultivate a state of active openness, which is a blend of moral purification and intellectual honesty. This is not passive waiting. It is an active effort to control the quality of our thoughts, replacing negativity with constructive self-reflection, doubt with a humble faith, and criticism with compassion. Furthermore, this receptivity involves training our minds to recognize spiritual communication in all its subtle forms, moving beyond the expectation of classic, dramatic mediumship. It means petitioning our guides to sharpen our moral vision and our spiritual hearing so that we can clearly see the lessons embedded in our trials and hear the warnings veiled in our intuitions. The most immediate application of this is in developing self-trust. We must first believe in the capacity of our own inner self, the soul, to receive the truth, allowing ourselves to be guided without constantly second-guessing every inspired thought that arises in the stillness of the mind. The subtlety of intuition and inner guidance. Intuition is arguably the most common and often the most reliable form of spiritual communication available to the incarnate being, and the Spiritist philosophy places great importance on its development. It is the direct influence of a superior spirit acting upon the spirit attached to the body, a silent suggestion or inspiration that bypasses the cumbersome mechanism of physical speech or visual hallucination. Consider those moments of genuine crisis or decision, when the logical mind is paralyzed by uncertainty, when we stand at a crossroads unable to determine the right course of action. It is precisely in this gap, when the ego's noise temporarily subsides due to confusion or fear, that the wisdom of the spirit world most frequently asserts itself. The guidance often arrives not as a commanding voice, but as a sudden, clear certainty, a compelling impulse, or a new, insightful perspective on an old problem. This is your guide gently injecting a superior thought or a crucial memory of past knowledge from a previous life into your current consciousness, steering you toward the path that serves your ultimate moral and evolutionary development. The key to accessing and trusting this subtle form of guidance lies in constant moral vigilance, as the purer the soul, the clearer the intuitive channel. A heart preoccupied with goodness and sincerity will receive pure, selfless inspirations, while one clouded by selfishness will struggle to discern the voice of a superior guide from the murmurs of their own material desires or the suggestions of less evolved spirits, messages delivered by third parties. The spiritual guides do not limit their communication to internal psychic phenomena. They frequently leverage the physical reality around us, using other people as unintentional messengers, a process aligned with the spiritist concept of fluidic influence and universal solidarity. This is the profound mechanism that explains the phenomenon of the right message at the right time. You may be struggling with a moral dilemma, a conflict requiring courage or forgiveness, and suddenly a person, a friend, a co-worker, or even a stranger overheard in a public space utters a phrase, tells a story, or offers a generalized piece of advice that perfectly and unexpectedly resolves your inner conflict. That individual may have no knowledge of your personal struggle, but their words were fluidically influenced by your guide to address your specific need. The guide saw the quickest, most natural path for the message to reach you and used an available human conduit. This is why vigilance is crucial. We must look at every interaction, every piece of advice, and every conversation through a lens of potential spiritual significance. This phenomenon underscores the reality of our interconnectedness, reminding us that we are all, often unknowingly, participants in the spiritual assistance network. This realization should inspire a greater respect and compassion for all people, as any individual at any moment may be serving as a vehicle for the wise counsel you have been earnestly seeking. The spiritual dialogue in the light. When your candle is lit and your personal intention is set, you have established a sacred temporal space for an active, living spiritual dialogue, transforming a quiet moment into a dynamic conference with your protectors. The flickering flame becomes an altar of earnest discourse, not just silent contemplation. Do not hesitate to speak your heart's concerns directly to your guides as if they were physically present, which, in a fluidic sense, they are. Articulate your needs clearly. I feel lost and require a directional signal. I am facing this specific conflict. What decision best honors my duty and the divine law? This is the time for humble surrender, acknowledging your human limitations while affirming your willingness to be directed by higher wisdom. By verbalizing your dilemma, you are not informing the omnipresent spirit world of your situation, but rather you are structuring and clarifying your own thoughts, making your mental field a more organized target for their response. As you maintain this focus, your spiritual team can more easily infuse your consciousness with the necessary thoughts, solutions, or energetic support. Following this honest, spoken surrender, the imperative is to remain in a state of hyper-vigilance. The universe, having received your focused request, will begin to organize itself to provide the answer. Therefore, look, listen, and sense the immediate environment. The answer may arrive in the form of a calming peace, a flash of insight, or a spontaneous, clear mental directive that settles the previously chaotic dilemma, demonstrating the Spirit's swift, direct response to a sincere prayer. Counsel received in the realm of dreams. The realm of sleep and dreams constitutes a vital, profound window for spiritual communion, a period where the incarnate spirit, partially freed from the constraints of the physical body, can more directly interact with the spiritual world. Kardec's research on the emancipation of the soul during sleep confirms that our spirit travels, converses, and receives instruction from other spirits, often our guides, who use the dream state as a safe, less censored environment to provide crucial counsel and warnings. Before drifting into sleep, make a conscious, unwavering petition to your spiritual benefactors. During my sleep tonight, grant me the guidance, the memory, or the foresight necessary to wisely navigate my current challenges. Allow me to receive advice that will contribute to my moral progress. This intentional request primes your spirit for the nocturnal lesson. The spiritual instruction received in this state may be symbolic, requiring post-sleep reflection, or surprisingly literal, presenting a clear image of a future event or a straightforward solution. Because the ego's interference is minimized during sleep, the delivered information is often purer and more impactful, acting as a profound download of wisdom directly into the subconscious. Furthermore, this nocturnal practice not only grants you access to advice, but also helps your spirit to re-energize and learn, preparing you for the trials of the coming day with renewed moral fortitude and insight gleaned from the subtle world. Obstacles as protective interventions. The profound truth that our spiritual guides operate continually to protect and orient us means that we must look beyond the immediate frustration of a setback and recognize it as a possible act of benevolent intervention. The philosophy of Spiritism teaches that the highest form of love is preemptive protection. Therefore, when a small frustrating obstacle occurs, a travel delay, a minor illness, a mechanical failure, it may be a strategic maneuver by your guardian angel to prevent you from encountering a much larger danger or making a decision that would impede your moral progress. This is the concept of a divine detour. The moment of the inconvenience is a profound opportunity for a check-in with your intuition. Were you proceeding despite a persistent, quiet feeling of unease? Were you prioritizing a material goal over a spiritual duty? The difficulty compels you to pause, to stop the momentum of a potentially misguided path, and to reevaluate your direction. Instead of viewing the broken car as an annoyance, consider it a physical manifestation of a spiritual warning, a forced period of stillness designed to refocus your attention on something you have been willfully neglecting. This shift in perspective, embracing the inconvenience as a form of counsel, is a powerful exercise in faith and spiritual maturity, transforming perceived misfortune into a recognized blessing and confirmation of your guide's constant, loving presence. Discernment of negative signals. A comprehensive spiritual practice, as emphasized by the principles of Spiritism, requires not only the ability to receive wisdom from elevated spirits, but also the crucial faculty of discernment, the capacity to distinguish between positive, uplifting influences and lower, more negative mental suggestions. The spiritual landscape is populated by many intelligences, not all of whom are benevolent or wise. The imperfect spirits are those who are still burdened by moral imperfections, pride, envy, selfishness, and often seek to influence incarnate beings toward error, either through malice or mere thoughtlessness. These negative signals rarely manifest as dramatic, fear-inducing events. Rather, they appear as subtle, persistent internal whispers, a sudden, intense surge of inexplicable anger, a compelling wave of doubt about a good action, or a depressive spiral focused entirely on self-pity and resentment. These are the fluidic suggestions of less evolved entities whose vibration aligns with temporary moments of our own moral weakness. To counteract this, we must maintain a rigorous self-examination, constantly monitoring the quality and origin of our thoughts. If a thought leads to discouragement, disharmony, or a desire for moral compromise, it is highly likely to be a negative influence. The key defense is moral elevation. By consciously choosing to think in terms of charity, patience, and humility, the core tenets of Kardec's moral code, we instantly raise our personal vibration, making ourselves fluidically inaccessible to any spirit whose goals are less than pure and constructive. We have traversed the essential landscape of intentional spiritual communion, moving from the simple act of lighting a candle to the profound, continuous exercise of moral vigilance. The fundamental enduring lesson is this: the connection to your higher self and your superior guides is not a privilege reserved for the few, but a constant available reality for all who choose to believe and, more importantly, choose to act with moral purpose. This path, illuminated by the clear, rational teachings of Allan Kardec, is an invitation to engage in a ceaseless process of self-improvement. The spiritual world will never force a sign upon you, nor will it shout its advice. It communicates in the language of the soul, through intuition, coincidence, and the gentle guidance of circumstances. Therefore, the greatest tool you possess is your own attentiveness, a heart cleansed of selfishness, a mind disciplined against distraction, and a spirit humbly positioned to receive. Go forth with the conviction that you are constantly loved, protected, and guided. Accept the challenges not as punishments, but as crucial lessons, and the obstacles as wise detours designed for your protection. By maintaining your focus on the good, your moral compass true, and your spiritual antenna clear, you ensure that the guidance you receive is always pure, constructive, and aligned with the sublime universal laws of progress and love. Trust in this process and let your life become a clear, luminous reflection of the wisdom your spiritual family tirelessly works to impart.